Hi, it's John Vu, and in today's lesson we're going to go through Mean Beans from the Trinity College London drum kit syllabus. So this is a grade 3 group A piece, so it's played with a backing track. Okay, so looking at the sheet music, got the song title at the top of the page in the middle, and then beneath that it says Down and Dirty Shuffles. That's the style or feel of the piece. Okay, so we're going to be playing a shuffle. So this is an introduction to the driving shuffles that are featured in Booker T's Green Onions. Okay, so that's the kind of style we're playing. And then beside that it says a quarter note equals 126. That's the tempo of the piece. So there's going to be 126 quarter note beats per minute. Okay, so a sort of medium tempo. And then beside that we've got 2/8 notes, and it says equals a quarter note triplet and an 1/8 note triplet. So that's the key to tell us that we need to swing the 1/8 notes. Okay, so when we see 2/8 notes in this piece, we're going to play them as the rhythm quarter note triplet on the downbeat, 1/8 note triplet on the upbeat. Okay, so that second 1/8 note on the upbeat, on the and, which is usually played at the midpoint of the beat, is going to be played later. So it's going to be played on that 2/3 of the way through the beat point, okay, which is where the upbeat 1/8 note triplet's played. Okay, so instead of playing straight 1/8 notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and we're going to play 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So all of those 1/8 notes, 1/8 note upbeats are to be swung in this piece. Okay, so beneath that you can see the letter A in the box there, so that's a section. So that's just letting you know the first section of the song starts there, section A. And then beneath that we've got the first bar of music. So in the first bar of music you can see the percussion clef at the start there, letting you know it's percussion notation on the stave. And beside that we've got the time signature. Okay, so the time signature for this piece is 4/4. We've got a 4 at the top, which tells us there's 4 beats in the bar, and a 4 at the bottom tells us each one of those beats is a quarter note. Okay, so there's 4 quarter note beats in the bar, so common time. And then in the first bar, we've got a quarter note on the bass drum on the 1, quarter note on the hi-hat on the 2, quarter note rest on 3, then we've got an 1/8 note on the hi-hat on the downbeat of 4, and an 1/8 note on the upbeat of 4, also on the hi-hat, and that's played with a bass drum as well. Okay, so remember that 1/8 note upbeat there on the and of 4 is going to be played later. So it's going to be played 2/3 of the way through the beat. So the rhythm for that first bar is 1, 2, rest, 4, ah. Okay, because you're playing that 1/8 note upbeat on the ah, 2/3 of the way through the beat. So if we play that now, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and on that last note in that bar, the 1/8 note upbeat, you've got an open hi-hat above it. Okay, so you're going to open that hi-hat on that upbeat of 4, and then we go into the next bar, so you can see the tie there into the next bar. So on the downbeat of 1 in the next bar, you've got a hi-hat, and then you've got hi-hat with foot. So that's where that open hi-hat at the end of the previous bar is going to close, okay, at the start of bar 2. So there's a tie on the actual hi-hat note played with the stick. So you're not going to hit that hi-hat on the 1, you're just going to close it with the foot so it lands on the 1. Okay, so we're going to put that note in as well. So we're going to play bar 1 and also the downbeat of 1 of the second bar. So it sounds like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so you hear that open on the upbeat of 4, and then that left foot is just going to play on the downbeat of 1, which will close the hi-hats. Okay, then also in the first bar, you can see we've got 2 accents above the hi-hats on the 2 and the 4. So you need to make sure you hit those notes with more emphasis, okay, more force, so they're louder. So you're really hearing that downbeat of 2 and 4. And also beneath the bar, you've got the dynamic MF, short for mezzo forte, which means half loud. So you want to play this at a kind of normal dynamic level. Okay, then for the rest of bar 2, all you've got is a quarter note hi-hat on the 2. You've got a quarter note rest on the 3 again, and then we've got a quarter note on the hi-hat on the 4 again. And those 2 notes on the 2 and the 4 on the hi-hat both have accents above them. Okay, so in both bars, your accent in the downbeat of 2 and 4. Okay, so make sure they're really standing out. Okay, so putting those 2 bars together, bars 1 and 2, we got 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so you want to get that down, make sure you can open that hi-hat, okay, that swung 1/8 note upbeat, and then close it on the downbeat of 1. So it's quite a short open, okay, so just make sure you're getting the timing of that. And then on the rest of line 1, we got a 2-bar repeat. So that means repeat the previous 2 bars. So we play bars 1 and 2 again. And then in line 2, so bars 5, 6, 7 and 8, we've got another 2-bar repeats there. So we're repeating those 2 bars again. Okay, so we got 2 bars in bars 1 and 2. We've got a 2-bar repeat, so we play bars 1 and 2 again, and then we come into line 2. We've got another 2-bar repeat, so we play bars 1 and 2 again, and we've got another 2-bar repeat, so we play bars 1 and 2 again. Okay, coming into line 3, we've got another 2-bar repeat at the start of line 3, so we repeat the previous 2 bars, which are bars 1 and 2. Okay, so you're playing bars 1 and 2 once through, and then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 2-bar repeats. So you're playing them another 4 times. Then we come into bar 11 in line 3, where we just got a bass drum for a quarter note on the 1, hi-hat accent for a quarter note on 2, bass drum for a quarter note on 3, hi-hat accent for a quarter note on 4. Okay, so again, accent in that 2 and 4, and then in the last bar of section A, bar 12, we've got 8th note triplets on the snare drum for the whole bar, so that'll be 1 ender, 2 ender, 3 ender, 4 ender, and we've got a rudiment, so you see the sticking pattern above it, right, left, right, left, right, right, left, right, left, right, left, left. So that's a double paradiddle. So we've got a right lead double paradiddle and a left lead double paradiddle, okay, in 8th note triplets. So make sure you get that sticking down first. You got 1, 2, 3, 4. And you've got bass drums playing all the downbeats. Okay, so you've got quarter notes on the bass drum on all the downbeats. So we'll get that in, just keeping time there on the bass drum. 4 on the floor. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that's quite tricky independently, because obviously you're playing 3-note subdivision, 8th note triplets, but you're playing a rudiment that's lasting 6 notes, and then you've got the bass drum playing every 3 notes as well. Okay, so the rudiment overlaps the kick pedal. Okay, so you're not playing a rudiment per kick, it's overlapping through. Alright, so a little bit tricky, so make sure you get that down. And then beneath bar 12, you can see we got a crescendo there, so we need to get louder. So for this first section, section A, we've been at mezzo forte, half loud, and then we crescendo in bar 12. Okay, then looking at the start of the next section at bar 17, you can see we've got an F there, short for forte, which means loud. So that crescendo at bar 12 needs to take us from mezzo forte to forte. So just one dynamic level higher, so make sure you're just increasing the dynamic there. And then you can see a double bar line after bar 12, which tells us there's going to be a musical change, okay, because we come to the end of section A. So what we're going to do now is put the whole of section A together. So make sure you're keeping a solid feel, keep those accents on the downbeat of 2 and 4 on the hi-hat, nice open hi-hat in the original 2-bar groove, and then just make sure you're coming down on that snare playing double paradiddles with a crescendo, okay? So let's put section A together. And now we'll try section A with the backing track. So we've got a 2-bar count in, so you can see the top right of the page, you've got the count in there. So we're here 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're in, okay? So make sure you're in on that bass drum on the 1, hi-hat accents on 2 and 4. You're keeping a really solid feel in this section A. All right, make sure that open hi-hat again, nice and in time, coming in on that upbeat, the swung upbeat to give it that shuffle feel. Okay, so you make sure you're really solid in this section, and then that fill at the end of the section in bar 12 just increases the energy. Okay, it just intensifies it a bit. All right, so make sure you've got that crescendo on the fill in bar 12, and you're playing the right sticking pattern. Okay, so double paradiddles. Let's try section A in time with a backing track. So now we come into section B, which starts at bar 13 at line 4 of the piece. So above bar 13, you can see the Senyo sign there. So we just need to take note of that to know we'll be coming back to that point at some future point in the song. Beneath that, you've got the letter B in a box, letting you know this is the start of section B. Okay, so in bars 13 and 14, you've got a 2-bar groove. It's a quarter note groove, and we're on the ride cymbal. Okay, so lead hand plays quarter notes on the ride cymbal. We've also got a crash to accentuate the start of the groove on the 1 of bar 13. Okay, so we crash into this groove. We've got a backbeat on 2 and 4 on the snare drum, so our standard backbeat. And then we've got a bass drum and hi-hat pattern. So hi-hat played with a foot. Bass drum for a quarter note on 1, hi-hat with foot for a quarter note on 2, bass drum for a quarter note on 3, then we've got an 8th note on the downbeat of 4 with the hi-hat with foot, and then we've got a bass drum playing the upbeat of 4. Okay, so that's the 8th note upbeat, which is going to be swung. So that 8th note upbeat on the upbeat of 4 is going to be played later. Then we go into the next bar. So the bass drum on the upbeat of 4 there, it's got a tie on it, and that ties into the downbeat of the 1 of the next bar, bar 14, okay? So we don't play that bass drum at the start of bar 14 because it's merged with the previous bass drum you just played at the end of bar 13, okay, the upbeat of 4. Okay, so don't play the 1 of bar 14 on the bass drum. We've got a hi-hat with foot for a quarter note on 2, then we've got 8th notes on the bass drum on the 3, so remember that downbeat of 3 is going to be right on the downbeat, the start of the beat, and then that 8th note upbeat is going to be played later, okay? So make sure you swing the 8th note upbeat, and then we've got the hi-hat with foot playing the 4 for quarter note again. Okay, so the hi-hat with foot keeps time on that 2 and 4, so make sure it's really solid, planting that 2 and 4, and just make sure those 8th note upbeats on the bass drum are swung, okay? So the 2-bar groove, bars 13 and 14, sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so it's important to swing those 8th note upbeats and just make sure you don't play that bass drum on the downbeat of 1 in bar 14, okay, because it's merged with the previous bass drum. You do play the ride cymbal on the 1 though, okay, so make sure you do play that. So that's the 2-bar groove there. We're looking at the next 2 bars, very similar. You just got an extra snare drum, okay, at the end of the 2 bars, the next 2 bars. Okay, so bars 15 and 16. Very similar to 13 and 14, just that extra snare drum at the end of bar 16, okay? So that's an 8th note upbeat, that extra snare drum on the upbeat of 4, so you're going to swing that, okay? So just adding that note in to play bars 15 and 16 sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so putting that line together, so bars 13, 14, 15 and 16. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and then coming into the next line of section B, starting at bar 17, you've got that 2-bar groove again that you played in bars 13 and 14, but obviously you just haven't got that crash at the start of the groove because we're not accentuating the start there because we aren't starting a new section. Okay, we're just carrying on with that 2-bar groove, and then we've got a 2-bar repeat for that rest of the lines. We just play bars 17 and 18 again. Okay, then into the next line of section B, starting at bar 21. We've got the same groove continuing, but we've got a crash cymbal on the upbeat of 4. Okay, so we're playing the same thing that we did in bar 17, just playing a crash cymbal when we play that bass drum on that upbeat of 4. Okay, so we'll add that in. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4. And we've got an accent above that crash cymbal, so we need to hit that with more emphasis, okay, more force. So there's nothing rhythmically different there, we're just adding in the crash cymbal, okay? So you want to make sure that's really tight with that bass drum, make sure they're both playing that swung upbeat on the upbeat of 4. Then we go into the next bar, okay, so you can see we've got a tie onto that crash on the downbeat of 1 of the next bar, bar 22, and also a tie onto the bass drum. So we let the note ring for that quarter note, okay, so we don't play that note again because it's merged with the previous note that you played at the end of bar 21. And then we come in with our groove that we played in the second bar, the 2-bar groove. Okay, so we just continue playing that same groove that we've been playing for this section. All right, so putting those 2 bars together, bars 21 and 22, sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so you're not playing that 1 of bar 22, so let that crash ring through from the previous bar on the upbeat of 4. Okay, so it's like an earlier crash. Okay, it's in like an unexpected place. And then we come into the next bar, so bar 23, where we got the first bar of the 2-bar groove we've been playing, and then we come into the next bar, bar 24, where we're playing the groove for half a bar. So you got 1, 2, and then you got a 2-beat fill there. So 8th note triplets on the snare drum for 3 and 4. So you got 3-ender, 4-ender. You could just play that as single strokes. Okay, you got a bass drum playing the downbeats as well there. So that 3 and 4 sounds like this. 1, 2. Okay, so putting those 2 bars together, bars 23 and 24 sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that brings us to the end of section B. So you can see a double bar line after bar 24. So we're going to put the whole of section B together now. Okay, so looking at the dynamic of section B, so like we said before, when we finished section A, we played a crescendo at the end of section A, and then the start of section B, you can see the letter F there, short for forte, which means loud. So you want to play this section loud. Okay, make sure you bring the energy and you're really tidy with those quarter notes. Just make sure you're swinging all those 8th note upbeats to give a nice flowing, driving feel to this groove. Okay, make sure you got that accent on the upbeat crash cymbal at bar 21. Okay, and then nice triplet finish. These 8th note triplets on the 3 and 4 of bar 24. Okay, so let's try putting the whole of section B together. So now we'll try section B with a backing track. Okay, so keep a solid groove here, good time. So make sure you're keeping that 2 and 4 planted on the hi-hat with foot, which plays with the backbeat. Okay, so a nice solid backbeat, and just make sure those bass drums that you play on the upbeats nice and swung, and that bass drum is right in time in that accented crash cymbal in bar 21. Okay, on that upbeat of 4. So keep it really tidy in this section and a nice sort of flowing, driving feel, okay? You need to give it a down and dirty shuffle feel, okay? So really get into this with like your down and dirty face. Give it the feel of the track, all right? So let's try section B with a backing track. So now we come into section C, which starts at the top of the second page of the piece at bar 25. So we've got a change up for this section. We've got some hits to play on the crash cymbal and snare drum. So we've got a crash cymbal for a quarter note on the downbeat of 1, snare drum on the downbeat of 2 for an 8th note, and then we got another crash cymbal for an 8th note on the upbeat of 2. So remember that upbeat is going to be swung, it's going to be played later, and the 8th note beat of 2 on the crash is tied to a half note. Okay, so you're going to let that note ring for the rest of the bar for beats 3 and 4 as well. Okay, so we crash on that upbeat of 2, and it's also tied to that half note on 3, which lasts for 3 and 4. Okay, so those 2 notes on the upbeat of 2 and the downbeat of 3 are going to merge together. All right, we've got a bass drum playing with that crash cymbal on the downbeat of 1, and also with the crash cymbal on the upbeat of 2. Okay, you can see we've got the tie on the upbeat of 2 on the bass drum also to the half note. So you're just going to let that note ring for that for the 3 and 4 as well. Okay, so you don't play the downbeat of 3. The note is just tied to the previous note on the upbeat of 2 for the rest of the bar. Okay, so they merge together. Okay, so bar 25 sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so make sure you're hitting that snare drum on the downbeat of 2 by itself. Okay, and then in the next bar we got a half note rest, so we rest for beats 1 and 2, then we got an 8th note on the downbeat of 3 on the snare drum by itself again, and then we got a dotted quarter note on the upbeat of 3. Okay, so that's going to last the rest of the bar, and because it comes in on the upbeat, we're going to swing it. Okay, so play it later. So we got a crash cymbal again with an accent above it, and that's played with a bass drum as well. Okay, so we hit the 3, the downbeat 3 with the left hand on snare drum, and then we hit the upbeat 3 crash cymbal played with the bass drum as well. Okay, so that bar 26, we got 1, 2. Okay, so make sure that's got an accent on it, that upbeat of 3 in that bar. Okay, so bars 25 and 26 together, we got 1, 2, 3, 4. And then in the next bar, we got the same thing that we played in bar 25, but now we got accents on the 2 crashes. Okay, so we just need to hit them with more emphasis, gain more force on those crashes. And in the last bar of that line, so bar 28, we've got slash notation, which means we can improvise, and we got fill written above the bar. Okay, so we need to improvise a 1 bar fill at the end of that line. Okay, so that line sounds like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so any fill you want to play in that final bar, which obviously complements the feel of the piece. And we've also got a crescendo beneath that fill bar, okay? So when you play the fill, you need to increase the dynamic as you play it, okay? And then we come into the next line, so starting at bar 29, where we got the same thing that we played at the start of the previous line in bar 25. In the next bar, you got the same thing that you played in the previous line again in bar 26. In the next bar, you got the same thing that you played again in bar 27. Okay, so the first 3 bars of the second line of section C are the same as the first 3 bars of the first line of section C. Okay, the only difference is the dynamics. As you can see beneath bar 29, we've got FF, which is short for fortissimo, which means very loud. So obviously we played the fill, improvised the fill in bar 28 with a crescendo. So that crescendo takes us from forte to fortissimo. So we're at fortissimo for this line, the second line of section C. And at the end of the line, we've also got slash notation again with fill above it. So we improvise another 1 bar fill, okay, at the end of that line. Okay, so the 2 lines are the same, well, very similar. The only difference is the dynamics. So obviously fortissimo for the second line, and also in the fill, in the second line, the improvised fill, there's no crescendo. Okay, so we just stay at the same dynamic, fortissimo. So a lot of energy in that line. Okay, then we come into the next line, starting at bar 33, where we got some hits on the floor, tom and snare in unison. So we got a quarter note on a downbeat of 1, quarter note on a downbeat of 2, then we've got an 8th note rest on the downbeat of 3, and we've got an 8th note on the upbeat of 3. So this note's going to be swung, okay, that upbeat of 3, and then the quarter note rest on the downbeat of 4. So you're hitting the 1, the 2, and the swung upbeat of 3. Okay, floor, tom and snare in unison. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we've got a 1 bar repeat after that, so in bar 34, so we repeat bar 33, play that back to back, and then we got some hits, hi-hat and snare drum together on the downbeat of 1 for an 8th note, okay, in the next bar, so this is bar 35, okay, so hit the downbeat, hi-hat and snare right in unison, there's an accent above the note, so hit that note with more emphasis, more force, okay, so as it's an 8th note, it kind of wants a staccato feel, so a nice short note, okay, abrupt note. And then we've got an 8th note rest on the upbeat of 1, 8th note rest on a downbeat of 2, and then we've got a crash and snare drum together on the upbeat of 2. So that's going to be swung, okay, and that's tied to a half note. Okay, so you're going to let that note ring for a half note as well. Okay, so we play it for the 8th note on the upbeat of 2, and it's merged to the half note for 3 and 4. Okay, so that note rings for the rest of the bar. So we've got a hit on a downbeat of 1, hi-hat and snare, hit on the upbeat of 2, crash and snare, which rings for the rest of the bar. And we've got accents above the 2 notes. Okay, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we finish the section with another 8th note triplet fill that we played at the end of the first section, section A. Okay, so we got triplets, 8th note triplets all the way through the bar. So the rhythm is 1 ender, 2 ender, 3 ender, 4 ender. We got quarter note bass drum, so we're just playing 4 on the floor, and we got the double paradiddle again. Okay, so that's the sticking pattern that you play right, left, right, left, right, right, left, right, left, right, left, left, with a crescendo on it again. Okay, so we're at fortissimo anyway, and then we're crescendoing through. So we're really building the energy here at the end of this section. Okay. See a double bar line at the end of bar 36, okay, letting you know it's the end of a musical section. Okay, so we're going to put the whole of section C together now. So we've got those hits, make sure you're really accurate. You've got the accents where they need to be, okay, so you're playing those accented notes with more emphasis. Make sure the fill's really fluent, not interrupting the flow of the music, okay, they're complementing the feel. You've got that crescendo in the first improvised fill and then no crescendo in the second improvised fill. And then just make sure you're finishing that section with the right sticking pattern on the snare drum for the 8th note triplets in bar 36. Okay, so the double paradiddles with the crescendo. Okay, so high energy in this section. You start at forte, then you come into fortissimo in the second line of section C, and obviously we've got the crescendo at the end of the section as well. Okay, so let's put the whole of section C together now. So then we'll play section C with a backing track. So as you've mostly got hits for this section, keep them nice and tidy with the rest of the band. And then we've got some fills which fill the space. Okay, so really take those fills and make sure you complement the feel of the music. All right, and then we're back to the hits again for the second line. We come into the fill again, which obviously fills the space in this section. And then we've got some more hits in the third line of section C, finishing with that crescendo, double paradiddle, 8th note triplet rhythm. Okay, so let's try the whole of section C with a backing track. And above the final bar of section C, bar 36, we can see it says DS al coda, which is short for del segno al coda. So we go back to the sign, okay, which is at the start of section B, the segno sign there. Okay, so we play through section B again until we're sent to the coda. So you can see above bar 22, it says to coda with the coda sign there. Okay, so once we finish bar 22, we go to the coda at the end of the piece. Okay, so looking at the coda, bar 37, we've got that same first bar of the 2-bar groove that we played in section B, and then in the second bar of the coda, bar 38, you've got the same groove again for the first 2 beats, and then we've got a ride cymbal for a quarter note on 3, and then we've got a crash cymbal and bass drum in unison for an 8th note on the downbeat of 4, and another crash cymbal and bass drum in unison for an 8th note on the upbeat of 4. So that's going to be swung, that upbeat. Okay, both of those notes on the downbeat of 4 and the upbeat of 4 have got accents. We need to hit them both with more emphasis, more force. Okay, so they're like hits again, and they are tied to a whole note in the next bar. Okay, so they merge together. So that crash cymbal on the upbeat of 4 in bar 38 rings through the whole of the next bar as well. Okay, and then in the final bar of the piece, we got a flam. So a flam, obviously one grace note before a primary note. So you can play a right or left flam, and that's on the snare drum. Okay, so the coda, bars 37, 38, 39 and 40 sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that's the end of the piece. Alright, so we're going to try the coda now. So that will be from the start of section B. We'll play through until we're sent to the coda at the end of bar 22, and then we'll play the coda. Okay, so we're going to put that final section of the song together now. And now we'll try that with the backing track. Okay, so because we're playing through section B again, give it that same feel that you did when you played section B the previous time. Okay, nice sense of groove, that quarter note feel on the ride cymbal, making sure we swing those upbeats, and you got that accent on the upbeat of 4 on the crash cymbal in bar 21. And then in the coda, just make sure nice and sharp with those hits on the crash cymbal and bass drum at the end of bar 38, and a nice clean finish with that flam in the final bar on the downbeat of 1. Okay, so let's try that with the backing track. So now we're going to put the whole piece together. We're going to flow from section to section. So in section A, it's quite a stripped back, empty section. The main emphasis for us as the drummer, just to make sure we're clean with that hi-hat accent on the downbeat at 2 and 4, keeping that nice swung feel on the bass drum for those upbeats. Okay, you got that open hi-hat, obviously. Make sure that's nice and tidy. We're opening at the right point on that upbeat, that swung upbeat, and closing right on the downbeat of the next bar. Okay, so keep that 2 and 4 really consistent on the accent and hi-hat notes, and then we've got that fill at the end of the section, okay, which raises the energy. Make sure you use the right sticking padding on that fill, and then we come into section B, we crash in, and then we're playing that 2-bar groove at forte, okay, that quarter note groove. Okay, then as we come through section B, we end it with that 8th note triplet fill for beats 3 and 4 in bar 24. And then we come into section C, nice clean hits. Okay, then we got those fills to really fill the space, finishing with that 8th note triplet fill again, which takes us back to the sign. Section B, nice driving feel for that groove again. And then once we play bar 22, we go to the coda, a nice finish with the 4-bar coda, okay. Hits on those 4 and the upbeat of 4 in bar 38, make sure they're nice and clean. Finish with that flat. Okay, so let's put the whole piece together now. So I'm sure you enjoyed that piece. It's got a great down and dirty shuffle feel to it. Okay, so make sure you portray that when you play it. Okay, and if you don't know the track, make sure you listen to Booker T's Green Onions. Okay, just to kind of get a sense for the feel of this style of music. Okay, really listen to the drums, see how the drums sound in that. Okay, so have fun with this piece, and we'll see you in the next lesson.